Welcome to the very first episode of Mac with Cam. I am your host, Cameron Clothier, joined by none other than David Pierce Anderson. Dave, how you doing?
Cameron, I am, can I call you Cameron?
Yes, you can.
Okay, I'm so excited to be here, and I'm so excited that this show is a thing.
I am too. You know, we sort of came up with this idea a while ago, and today we bring it to life, and I'm excited to get going with it. So.
Well, it wasn't too long ago, actually, now it is a long time ago, when Sideliners was our sports show. And
yes.
That with Mike Kermey and Evan Hensley,
Yep.
but we haven't had that one in a while. I predicted before I would graduate we would have another sports show, and here we are a couple weeks before I graduate.
Here we are, absolutely. So, you know, and the thing with this show is, being that it's the end of the year, we might only be able to squeeze in one or two episodes, but that's fine. I mean, I know that you and I have both wanted to do it, so like you said, here we are.
So I have no idea what we're going to be doing here. Talk about the Mac with Cam. What is it?
So the Mac with Cam is a sports show. We're going to be covering everything related to Mid-American Conference sports. That includes Eastern Michigan University primarily, because that's where we are. But, you know, we're going to be talking about... Yeah, believe it or not. But we're going to be talking about other schools such as Buffalo, Central Michigan, Western, all the teams in
MAC schools.
Yes, MAC schools, correct. So we're going to be talking about that. So what do you say we jump right in?
I say let's jump right in.
Alrighty. So let's talk about the Eastern Michigan University men's basketball team. Take it away, Dave.
Well, thanks. Yeah, well, there's a basketball team on campus. They're the men's basketball team. You know, the season wrapped up. They had a first-round knockout in the MAC tournament.
Correct.
A bit of a disappointing year in my eyes for the team.
Yeah, I agree with you. So we finished the season 15-17 overall. Like you said, bounced out early by Ball State. And, you know, on paper, the team looks good. You've got James Thompson, you've got Elijah Minnie, you've got Paul Jackson, all ready to come back into the year. But like you said, pretty disappointing overall, and even more disappointing that we didn't get to see the Eagles in the MAC tournament this year.
Well, I think you have three professionals on this team, or professional caliber. James Thompson's the one that I think is NBA caliber.
Agreed.
But Elijah Minnie and Paul Jackson, I think minor leagues or overseas, they could be paid to play basketball.
Right. And I know we've talked about this several times. I could see Thompson being picked up in a second-round pick, like a late second-round pick. Maybe, you know, it's hard to say where he goes, but he could definitely contribute to an NBA team. So
I 100% agree, and the biggest issue with this season were the big three.
Right.
Not really having years that you'd expect them to. Paul Jackson, his statistics were pretty similar and on par to his last year with Eastern. Pretty much spot on in terms of points and assists. Actually had the same amount of assists per game. But Elijah Minnie was down 3.5 points per game and down a rebound and a half, which really adds up. James Thompson, who had been averaging over 14.5 points per game his first 3 years, only averages 11 in his senior year. So you missed that out opportunities from your big men, and I think that was kind of what hurt the Eagles down the stretch.
Absolutely, and you know, it's an interesting point to think about Jackson specifically, because he was playing behind Tim Bond last year, so those were his numbers largely coming off the bench, wouldn't you say, right?
Well, you know, I think Jackson ran the point and a bit of a shooting guard for Bond, but you had another asset, and Tim Bond was able to make a lot of plays happen from defensive to offensive. The greatest stealer of all time in Eastern history. And so Paul Jackson doesn't have that opportunity, and sometimes I think there was the pressure of leading the offense seemed to mount on him a little bit more, because with the addition of another big man in Boubacar Touré, Thompson there was this new balance that Thompson hadn't experienced, and I think that threw off the offense.
Sort of like the Blake Griffin, Andre Drummond combo
Almost
of your
exactly
big man.
like that, I might say.
So, but in talking about Thompson, you know, it's important to mention that he did, the bright spot of the season was he did break the Eastern Michigan all-time rebounding record, which is impressive. I know you and I were both at that game, so it was really cool to see that live.
Oh, that was awesome. It's been a blessing to be able to watch Thompson, one of the greatest Eagle athletic performers of all time, to be able to watch him from his freshman year on to his senior year and continue to break all these records and, you know, finally break the rebound record in the fashion that he did.
Right.
He had a 23 rebound performance against Ball State a week before the tournament game, and he needed 18 that night to break the record. I did predict it live on air that he would break the record that night.
And sure enough.
And he shattered it.
Yep, that's
Shattered it by 5.
So I guess it's safe to say, for as disappointing as a season it was for the Eagles, at least we got that, and at least we got to witness that, and the future's bright for Thompson. So I think he's going places.
Well,
like
I also don't want to gloss over the fact that Thompson, I think, had the best year out of the big three.
Right.
It took a little bit longer for him to get into that double-double rhythm that he usually gets into, but again, Boubacar Touré, who averaged 8.5 points per game, 7.5 rebounds per game, Thompson hasn't had a guy like that, another big guy like that. So his 11 points and 11 rebounds a game, I think you have to contribute some of that to Touré, and it wasn't a complete off year for Thompson. It was just that we had another big man.
Right. So another big man to sort of share the spotlight with, if you will. So yeah. So let's move forward. So let's talk about what does the future hold for Eastern Michigan basketball coach Rob Murphy.
That's a good question. If I had the answer, I'd be getting paid more money than I am for being on this show. I think this was a very disappointing year, and I do think most of the blame needs to be pointed to Rob Murphy. In those final minutes of that Ball State game, there was not much camaraderie or the team coming together for it. Guys were laughing on the bench. It didn't seem like there was too many emotions riding with your season ending.
Right. Sort of just thrown in the towel almost. I mean,
Murph has had some stars, and he's only won one MAC West title.
Yeah, that's correct.
And that's tough to do. That's tough to justify, at least, and it's been 8 years.
It really is. So, I mean, it's tough to predict who might, if Murphy does indeed get let go, who might be the next EMU coach. I mean, have there even been any names tossed around? I mean, there's nothing that I've heard. So
I've been tossing your name around.
Really?
Yes.
Well, I might be a good fit. It's hard to say right now because I'm wrapped up in the show, but
the other commitments.
If Eastern calls, I might be inclined to take it. So.
Well, there's a lot of good people in the organization, and you saw with volleyball and Kimmy Olsen leaving.
Yep.
Darcy Dorton, you just move one seat down.
Right,
and,
that's right.
And they're going to be in good shape next year.
So maybe they promote internally then. It's tough to say for now, but I guess we'll just see what happens. So let's sort of shift gears a little bit. I want to talk about the Eastern Michigan women's basketball team. So the ladies finished the season overall 14-17 record. They did make some noise in the MAC tournament, and they nearly knocked off Central Michigan. So let's talk about that. I mean, that was an entertaining game, thrilling performance, and they almost did it, but not quite.
Well, if you want to jump right into their final game of the year, they were leading with no time left, basically, yep. And Presley Hudson fired up a last-second three-point attempt to tie the game in regulation.
Yep, send it to overtime.
If that goes south, Central Michigan goes down the number one seed.
Yep.
Eastern moves into the semifinals, but unfortunately, Central played well in overtime and topped the Eagles, and eventually got themselves a bid into the NCAA tournament also.
Right, that's correct. Well, I mean, it's a nice start for the Eagles, so hopefully they can carry that momentum into next season. It'll be interesting to see what Fred Castro has lined up for the ladies.
I like Castro a lot, and looking forward to next season. Jenna Anacarico is a player to watch for sure. She's had some standout games this year, and she's a freshman, so bright future.
Right, more to come, definitely. So. And, you look at the numbers. Overall, they shot 381 from the field, so it's not bad. I mean.
Well, another situation, it kind of had some parallels into both the teams, but Danielle Minot had a bit of an off season this year. Actually, pretty similar statistics to Minnie. Last year, Minnie 16.8 points per game. Last year, Minot 16.7, and they both finished at 13.5 this year.
So interesting season for the EMU women's basketball team. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back right after this.
myself, I'm just going to grab a quick drink. 2 minutes later, and everything was gone. My backpack, my laptop, my cell phone, my iPod. 2 minutes was all it took. I was lucky. The thief was eventually caught and I got it all back. But now that I had that happen to me, I realized that anything valuable has to be treated like cash. I'll never leave it out of my sight again. My name is Heather, and I'm trying to be safe.
And welcome back to the Mac with Cam. I am your host, Cameron Clothier, joined by David Pierce Anderson, and we are talking Eastern Michigan University women's basketball. So let's get right back into it, Dave. So obviously we talked about the Central Michigan game. So what can we expect from the Lady Eagles next year?
Well, I think it's the season was promising, and I like Fred Castro a lot. We talked about the tournament a little bit. He really brought out a good team. They upset Akron 61-59, a tight game, and then almost beat Central, the #1 seed. So he was able to get something out of this team, and I really appreciate that. Like I said earlier, Anna Carrico really looks bright for the future. Corian Cardwell, another person that really had a good year, breakout year, averaged 13 points per game this year. So I think the future is bright, and I like the direction they're going.
Well, hopefully they can keep up that momentum, and we'll see what next year brings. So, next question. Who do you like more going forward, Eastern men or Eastern women?
Eastern women.
Eastern women. All right. You heard it here first. That's a hot take from David. So, let's just kind of shift gears a little bit. I want to talk more about the MAC basketball tournament for men.
Okay.
So, obviously, you know, Buffalo is the team to beat this year. They finished the season.
They're the team to beat, and no one seemed to caught on.
That's right. So they finished the season 31-3. They tear through the tournament. So let's talk a little bit about that. Let's talk about Buffalo, and now, especially, they're in the March Madness tournament. So
well, they tore through the tournament. They had a big first round win, a big second round win. But Central Michigan, we talked about Central playing some close games. In the semifinals, 85-81.
Close game.
That was a nail-biter, and Buffalo hasn't had too many of those this year.
Ultimately, though, they came out on top, and as a result, it sort of landed them in that March Madness tournament. So it will be interesting to see how well they represent the MAC. And
well, they did well last year.
Right.
They beat Arizona in the first round, and that was a surprise, and they've been ranked all year long, so they're not a sleeper team anymore, and they're going into the NCAA tournament as the 6th seed.
The 6th seed, and we were talking just a minute ago about how they are going to get a pretty easy team, whether it's St. John's or Arizona State. In the first round, and the odds are in their favor. So,
and the state of Arizona is not a fan of Buffalo basketball, so
that's right.
History might repeat itself.
Yeah, so we will see, and it's interesting to see Buffalo represent the MAC. I mean, obviously, like you and I both would love to see Eastern, but you know, Buffalo, man,
it's impressive, and to have the season they did, because they are a powerhouse now, but they're not like the Duke type, obviously, because
UNC,
you expect to have that type of success year in and year out.
Yep.
They come in this year, and they're nationally ranked, and they were so the whole season long, and they lived up to it. They never lost that ranking.
That's right, and that's pretty good. I mean, overall, representing the MAC like that, it's pretty good. And I don't know how you feel, but personally, I think the MAC doesn't get enough love. So it's nice that when we do have a team that plays really well and looks good, that it's cool for our.
It's good basketball. It's good athletics altogether. Some really competitive games, and realistically, once you're watching it, it doesn't matter what division you are, what conference you are, if it's pro, if it's college, or whatever. It's still a competitive game. You're still entertained by it.
That's right.
There's diversity too, and I like that, because Buffalo's not a great football school, but they're a great basketball school. And then you got some other schools represented in other sports, and I like the MAC. MAC is some awesome sports.
Yep. Let's get some action, as they like to say.
That's what they say.
Anyways, so quick, how far do you see Buffalo going in March Madness?
Well, I think they're going to win the first game. I'm going to I'm going to pull up the NCAA bracket as a whole, but like I said, they've been playing up against whoever this year, and they are not backing down to anybody.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Right here, I see they finished the season on a 12-game winning streak, which is impressive in and of itself. So, I mean, if if they're on that kind of roll right now and they're able to keep it going, then who knows? They could be the surprise team in the March Madness tournament this year.
Well, they had some questionable losses in the MAC, but overall, like we were saying, a successful year all the way around. I see them at least winning one game for sure.
Okay, definitely. I can definitely agree with that. So it will be interesting, and being that it's Thursday, the March Madness tournament starts today. So
That's right. I think we had one game under our belt anyways, but
yep. But
it's exciting.
It is exciting, and
and some of those championship games came down to the wire.
Oh, no doubt about
It
it.
should be an exciting March Madness overall.
I know we're a MAC show, but outside of the MAC, I'm a Michigan fan, so it'd be cool to see Michigan make a run, and they have a good team as well. So, I mean, we won't spend too much time on that, but
Michigan, the state of Michigan, is in good shape for basketball.
I think so too.
Michigan State will make some noise too.
Minus Eastern against Duke earlier this year, which was
That was rough.
that was rough.
But I mean, if you're gonna lose like that, it may as well be to Duke.
Yeah, that's right, and they got to play on the same court as Zion Williamson. So how cool is that?
I'm sure they don't really care too much, but for us, it was kind of cool.
I mean, if it was me, I would have asked Zion for an autograph after the game.
I'm
but
sure you would.
You know, I am a Zion.
But that's also why you're here with me right now.
That's correct. So anyways, how far do you see Buffalo? I know you said one game. That's it.
I think I can see 2 wins.
2 wins.
I'm going to give 1 for sure, 2 for
All right.
why not?
Alrighty. So let's kind of shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about the women's tournament now.
Speaking of Buffalo,
Speaking of Buffalo, so not only did they dominate in men's basketball this year, but they're also leading the way in terms of women's basketball. So what do we have there? Let's talk about that.
well, it's cool on that side because you have 2 MAC teams represented in
Yep.
the NCAA tournament. You have Buffalo, and then you have Central. So I like it. Again, MAC basketball really shows up to play. Buffalo had Sierra Dillard. She showed up and won the tournament MVP, and so she had a good season all around too, and really some good performances in that final championship game, which put them into the NCAA tournament.
Absolutely. So, it'll be interesting to see where they go. I'm not as familiar with the women's basketball tournament as I am with the men's because obviously, like the March Madness is a big thing for fans
Well, there will be
everywhere.
64 teams, and they'll each play each other. And one team will win, one team will lose, and if you lose, you go home. Winner moves on, and then you'll have a championship by the end of it.
I got that much,
I'm
Dave.
just catching you up.
Thanks. But anyways, so let's move forward a little bit. Going into next season, do you see Buffalo, both men and women's, leading the way again, or what? If not, what other team in the conference?
Well, for men's, I mean, I don't see Buffalo quieting down anytime soon. I don't.
Right,
I don't.
because
think
they do
they're
have a
gonna-
good program.
Yep. I don't think they're going to slow up. Buffalo's going to keep running hard. Toledo's got a good squad though, and I can see them making noise. Eastern was supposed to win the West this year. That didn't
See,
happen.
that didn't happen, right?
But Central is going to, I think, keep that power spot in the women's conference.
All right, well,
What do you think?
It'll be interesting to see what happens, but I definitely agree with you. I think Buffalo is not going away quietly, especially for men and women's. I mean, they're always the team to beat, and that's just how it is. So we're going to take a quick break. We've got a cool game coming up for you, so stick with us. We'll be right back. And we're back with the Mac with Cam. I'm Cam, joined by David Pierce Anderson, and we've got a fun little game for you. So Dave and I decided to come up with a bracket in honor of March Madness. We came up with a bracket of our top Eastern Michigan athletes of all time. So we're going to sort of go through that. We're going to talk about each athlete a little bit, and then we'll reveal who our top EMU athlete of all time is. So I'm going to start. So in the first little corner, you've got Paul McMullen, Brian Bixler, obviously two different sports, two different athletes, but I chose Bixler, and I feel that, for those of you who don't know, Brian Bixler, EMU athlete, and went on to play in Major League Baseball for a couple seasons. I think he was with Houston Astros and the Washington Nationals at one point, but my choice was Bixler over McMullen. So Dave, who did you have there?
I went with Paul McMullen on that one, Olympian in the '96 Olympics in Atlanta. So yeah, went with him.
Interesting decision.
Right.
It'll be sort of cool to see who you picked and who I picked, because I haven't seen your bracket yet.
I haven't seen yours either, but if I have any respect for you right now, I think we picked the same guy at the end.
Okay.
But
Well, we'll see. So moving on, in the second category here, you got George Gervin, Lacey Rubin. Gervin, basketball player, Lacey Rubin, EMU female gymnast, and, Gervin takes the cake for me.
I haven't heard of him. Yeah, I went with George Gervin also, Iceman.
Excellent. No contest there. Gervin is definitely a big name for anyone that knows Eastern sports. I think you know Iceman.
If you know NBA basketball, you know George Gervin.
Yeah, that's right.
Top 50 player of all time.
Yep, absolutely. No doubt about that. So, third category here, we've got Tyler Wiegers, EMU quarterback, current EMU quarterback, I might add, and Terry Collins, former manager of the New York Mets for baseball.
I went with Terry Collins on this one. He's got his picture up in the media room in the Convo, so
That's right.
I've seen him more than I've seen Wiegers.
Yeah, well, I like Collins, and it was interesting when the Mets made the run to the World Series a couple years ago. We did a video shouting out Collins, like, good luck in the World Series, so it was cool. I was a part of that production.
There's also a video of him cussing out the umpires. If you haven't seen it, I strongly urge you to check it out.
That is a good video.
It's hilarious.
That is an awesome video.
Earl Weaver era, just in terms of
Right,
words that you didn't know could go together.
Yeah, and Terry Collins, he was a bit of a hothead, so he's my pick.
That's right.
So,
He'd be mad if I didn't pick him.
That's right. So moving on, we've got Charlie Batch, Kendall Valentine. Easy choice here. I went with Charlie Batch.
I went with Charlie Batch also.
Okay, enough said. So we'll move on. Next, James Thompson, Hayes Jones. Hayes Jones, I think he was a track and field star. I know that his poster's up on the side of, what building even is that on campus?
Bowen?
Bowen, that's
There
right.
you go.
So he's up on the side of Bowen.
We are students here.
Yeah, that's right. You'd think I know. I've been here for 4 years, but so Hayes Jones and James Thompson. We talked about Thompson in the last segment, and for me, he's the obvious choice. He's been dominant in basketball. So
Thompson's one of the greatest Eagles of all time.
yeah. So just getting to watch him and see him play live, I think, is really what solidified the choice for me. So that's my pick. Moving forward, we've got Andrew Wiley, who is with the Kansas City Chiefs in the NFL, former EMU football player, and we've got Elijah Minnie. Who did you pick for this one?
I went with Andrew Wiley because Elijah Minnie doesn't play pro football.
That's true, but Elijah Minnie is here. Wiley is not.
True. But Minnie had a disappointing senior year, and he only played 2 seasons with us. Andrew Wiley, I'll take.
That's right. And Wiley, did he win the Rookie of the Year this year, or something along those lines? I thought I saw something.
If I was really
maybe not.
dedicated to this choice, I would have known.
Maybe not, but agree to disagree there. So, moving on, we've got Charles Thomas, Matt Shoemaker. The pick for me, Matt Shoemaker. He's former EMU baseball player, currently with the Los Angeles Angels. He's been pretty good.
I'm sure he was good while he was here.
Yeah,
Matt Shoemaker in the pros.
I couldn't really dig up too much about him, but if he's in the pros, he must be doing something right.
Sure.
So that's my pick.
I went with Charles Thomas just because I knew he'd go with Matt Shoemaker.
Well, okay. I guess it's
My next pick between Tim Bond and Jimmy. I'll let you take this name.
Leah Teoda.
There you go. I went with Tim Bond, also one of the best Eagles we've seen on the hardwood of all time.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Very good. And I know Bond is with the G League affiliate of the Houston Rockets right now, so that's pretty cool.
Was it the Rockets? I thought he was with the 76ers, unless he got moved.
Maybe he is. Not sure, but either way, I know he's doing well. So now shifting over to the other side of the bracket, we've got TJ Lang and Caitlin Wickham. Caitlin is on the dance team, and TJ Lang, obviously former EMU football player. He's bounced around the NFL. He's been with Green Bay. He's been with the Lions. So the pick for me, TJ Lang.
If they were going head-to-head, I'd definitely pick TJ Lang,
Yeah,
especially
definitely.
on the offensive line, for sure.
Absolutely, without a doubt. So Lang gets the pick from me. Moving forward, we've got Eric. You take this one.
You know what? This is your bracket, so I'm going to just say I picked Sasha Daly to beat Eric.
Yeah, that's right. So Eric and Sasha Daly, my pick as well. So it seems like we don't often agree, but it seems like we're on the same page here, which is cool.
Yeah.
So next pick, Bob Welch, Paulie Furcano. Honestly, when you told me about Bob Welch, I didn't even know who he was, so I picked Furcano, former kicker for the Eastern football team.
Bob Welch pitched 17 years in the major leagues, won a Cy Young Award in 1990, and he's got a baseball field named after him around me. So Bob Welch wins my pick there. If you pitched 17 years in the pros, you're doing something right.
Well, I've never heard of him, so he must not be doing that good.
Well, he's not in the league anymore.
There we
he's
go.
58 right now.
Okay, so moving forward, we've got Carl Spears, Kennedy McIntosh. I went with McIntosh, felt like he was the obvious choice because he's got a banner hanging up in the convo.
I went McIntosh also, saw his rebound record go down this year.
So moving on, my next pick is one that I had a really difficult choice here, and it came right down to it, and so it was between Ray Lee, Max Crosby. I went with Ray Lee because I didn't actually get to see him play, but from the highlights that I've seen, the dude was like unstoppable.
I think these are two very comparable players, but the personality and the quality of player and person that Max Crosby brought to the football team as opposed to Ray Lee, I went with Max Crosby hands down.
Interesting.
I think Ray Lee hurt the team more than he helped it.
Okay, so I do remember specifically hearing about Ray Lee dropping 50 points against Central Michigan, and that was around the time that they had Marcus Keene, so it was a big rivalry for those two teams.
Well, yeah, but then Ray Lee would be suspended for about a month for off-the-court antics.
Yeah, that's true, but, obviously didn't hold him back too much because I think he did go on to play in the G League for a couple years. I don't know that he's still there. But
about a half a season.
Yeah, so it was pretty cool.
I got Max Crosby.
Max Crosby, all right, agree to disagree. But next category, we've got Alex Wilbanks, female soccer player for EMU, and Earl Boykins, basketball, and also played in the NBA. So who'd you have there?
Went with Earl Boykins.
Good pick. I also went with Boykins.
One of the greatest free throw shooters of all time in the NBA.
That's right, so good pick there.
For the sake of time, I think we're going to have to buzz through these a little bit faster. Next lineup is Brogan Roback, Sabatheda, Fines. I went with Fines on that one, Olympic runner.
I went with Roback. Didn't even know who Fines was. Sorry, but Roback gets the pick from me.
Alyssa Lafauche and Grant Long. Lafauche is one of my favorite athletes of all time. I went with her.
Okay, well, I guess we'll agree to disagree yet again because I picked Grant Long. I know from watching the Pistons games, he's one of the in-studio analysts from him, and he talks about being an alum of EMU all the time. So
I think we'll jump to our final four right now because we can put our brackets online and you can check them out in depth. But I got Gervin against Thompson, Lang against Fines, Gervin, Fines in the finals.
Okay, so mine's close. I've got Gervin and Thompson as well. I've also got McIntosh and Brogan Roback in my final four. Ultimately, my final two comes down to Gervin, Roback, George Gervin, Iceman for the win. Who you got?
George Gervin, no questions asked.
Well, I'm glad that we at least agree on that. So, and if you don't know Iceman, what are you doing?
Read a book.
That's right. So, that's going to be it for the show today. For David Pierce Anderson, I'm your host, Cameron Clothier. This has been the first episode of The Mac with Cam. You can check us out on ETV, Campus Cable Channel 18, or on Facebook, ETV at EMU. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time, everybody.